Prime Minister Narendra Modi to participate in 12th BRICS Summit today. Theme of the summit is Global Sustainability, Shared Security and Innovative Development. Summit being held in a virtual format to focus on cooperation in war against terror, trade, health, energy and tackling the COVID pandemic. India to take over BRICS leadership for 2021. First meeting of Bihar cabinet to be held today after Nitish Kumar is sworn in as Chief Minister of State for the 7th time. Cabinet likely to give nod to convene first session of newly constituted 17th Bihar Legislative Assembly. Delhi police arrest two Jaish terrorists. Both are from Jammu and Kashmir and had come to Delhi for conspiracy. Four-day-long second phase of exercise Malabar 2020 begins in Northern Arabian Sea today. Second phase exercise involves coordinated operations of increasing complexity between navies of Australia, India, Japan and the US. Country's fight against COVID-19 continues. Colleges open in Karnataka from today after 8 months of shutdown. Number of recoveries more than fresh cases for 44th consecutive day, leading to further rise in recovery rate to 93.27%. Bharat Biotech launches phase 3 trial of COVAXIN. US pharma company Moderna claims phase 3 study of COVID vaccine meets statistical criteria with vaccine efficacy of 94.5%. Global cases rise to more than 5.5 crores with more than 13.3 lakh deaths. As the world grapples with the sharp rise in COVID infections, International Olympic Committee Chief Thomas Bach expresses confidence that the Tokyo Games will be held successfully next year, even allowing spectators to attend. Hello and welcome to this edition of the news. I'm Rukmaina. Top story. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will today be attending the 12th BRICS Summit in the evening at the invitation of the host, President of Russia, Vladimir Putin. The theme is global stability, shared security and innovative growth. The meeting will be held in a virtual format.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be participating in the 12th BRICS Summit hosted by Russia on Tuesday. The theme for this year's summit is global stability, shared security and innovative growth. Due to the ongoing COVID pandemic, the meet will be conducted in a virtual format. Being held in the backdrop of the 75th anniversary of the UN and in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, the leaders would be possibly discussing intra-BRICS cooperation, reform of the multilateral global system, measures to mitigate the impact of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, cooperation in counter-terrorism, trade, health, energy and people-to-people exchanges. India, which is to take over the chair of this grouping of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa for next year, will host the next summit in 2021. India has already chaired the grouping earlier in 2012 and 2016. BRICS is a grouping of the 5 leading and emerging economies of the world, that is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. The first BRICS summit took place in the year 2009 in Yekaterinburg in Russia. In 2010, South Africa joined the association, making it BRICS. One of the major objectives of the grouping is broadening, deepening and intensifying cooperation among the member countries for mutually beneficial, sustainable and equitable development. The group accounts for 30% of the combined world GDP, which is around $20 trillion. It collectively represents more than 40% of the world population. Bharat Pal Singh's report for DD India.
And joining us now is our correspondent Bharat Pal Singh to tell us more about the summit. Bharat Pal, the theme says that it is about global stability and so on. Could you break it up for us? What does it mean in the present times, considering how much the responsibility of the BRICS countries, BRICS leaders has increased in these past few months itself?
Well, as the theme says, it's about a shared security and innovative growth, Rukma. The focus of the 12th BRICS summit, as the report said, is going to cover a wide range of issues ranging from the pandemic to trade, counter-terrorism, cooperation in development, sustainable development. But I think the focus from the Indian point of view would be how to offset the damage of COVID or the impact of COVID-19. That would be the key issue that the leaders would be looking at, and how BRICS as a grouping can overcome that, because all said and done, about 42% of the world population lives in these 5 countries. So that's a significant part of the world. And also how to revive the economy which has been offset or which has been impacted due to the pandemic. So I think that would be the key focus, trade, especially in the services sector, and from the Indian standpoint of view, counter-terrorism. I think Prime Minister Modi today is going to raise this up in a big way, though he had at the last BRICS summit, 11th BRICS summit in Brazil, brought this up and said that how terrorism impacts development. But he's going to stress upon that again, especially cracking down on terrorism, BRICS taking a stand as a grouping on terrorist financing, on drug trafficking, organized crime, and how that hampers the economy. So I think that would be the key focus of Prime Minister, apart from the issue of trade and reviving the economy and intra-BRICS cooperation as far as COVID, the pandemic goes, or the development or the production of the vaccine when it comes.
Right.
Rukma?
Right, Amritpal, and when we talk about economic support, when we talk about economic cooperation, how much can India really expect? How much can India really give away, considering that among the BRICS nations, we also have Brazil, which is so severely affected by the pandemic, and then we also have China.
That's right. India is also very severely affected by the pandemic. So it is something which the whole world is dealing with. But we've seen, multilateral institutions, international multilateral institutions like the G7, the G20, or even, the Bretton Woods institutions turning inward. So I think the push really would be how to cooperate and with each other, because there are huge populations of the world which are vulnerable. And these are leading economies, mind you, India, South Africa, Brazil. I think the focus would be how as a grouping we can pool our resources together, we can pool our expertise together, go to a heightened cooperation to deal with the pandemic and the resultant impact on the economies that the whole world is seeing, and these countries which are emerging economies because of their huge populations are especially vulnerable. So how to offset that? Remember, when the economic crisis had hit, you needed about $4 trillion as a bailout package just for the US alone. Here we are talking about 5 big economies which have about 33-34% of the world GDP, about 43% of the world population. So you would need that sort of linkages, that kind of resources to the tune of that to actually deal with the crisis. Yes, there are problems. It doesn't come really at that easy, but this is what the grouping should be attempting, and I think the leaders would be in the plenary session today would be focusing on that.
Right. So, Amritpal, can we say that this is the starting point of the rebuilding of a post-COVID world with perhaps new trade ties, new terms, new conditions, new avenues and new opportunities for all countries?
I think the push would be on that, Rukma.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us, Amritpal, and for all your inputs. We'll be back with you throughout the day for more. And moving on, a day after taking oath as Bihar Chief Minister for the 7th time, Nitish Kumar will hold his first cabinet meeting today. The cabinet is likely to give the nod to convene the first session of the newly constituted 17th Legislative Assembly of the state. It may be noted that due to the coronavirus crisis, the cabinet meeting was being held only through video conferencing till now. Nitish Kumar was sworn in along with 14 ministers at a swearing-in ceremony held at Raj Bhavan yesterday. In all, there are 7 ministers from the BJP, 5 from the JDU, 1 each from HUM and VIP in Bihar's NDA government. The BJP legislature party leader Tarkishore Prasad and deputy leader Renu Devi have been made deputy chief ministers. Delhi Police Special Cell last night arrested 2 suspected terrorists. The terrorists, both natives of Jammu and Kashmir, are linked to terror group Jaish-e-Mohammed. 2 semi-automatic pistols along with 10 live cartridges have been recovered from their possession. They are being interrogated by a joint team of intelligence agencies and cell. Meanwhile, police is also believed to be carrying out searches at several other locations in the national capital in connection with the arrest of the Jaish terrorists. And let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the country. 40,791 recoveries were recorded yesterday, taking the cumulative total of recovered patients to 82 lakhs 90,370. With this, the recovery rate currently stands at 93.42%. India's 3-pronged strategy of test, trace and treat is proving to be a success. The fatality rate has dropped to 1.47%, with 1,30,519 deaths recorded so far. The number of active COVID cases in India stands at 4,53,401, which is 5.11% of total cases reported so far. India has reported less than 50,000 new daily cases for the 8th continuous day. In the last 24 hours, only 41,100 persons were found to be infected with COVID in India. Daily new cases last crossed the 50,000 threshold on the 7th of November. Apart from the successful dissemination of COVID-appropriate behavior among the varied population groups, this trend assumes wider significance as many countries in Europe and America continue to see a surge in their daily numbers. After 8 months of the shutdown due to the pandemic, colleges in Karnataka are reopening from today. State government released standard operating procedures for colleges and students have also been given the option of attending colleges online. Teachers and non-teaching staff have been instructed to undergo RT-PCR test for COVID-19 and attend only if the report is negative. This test is valid for 72 hours in the absence of any symptoms. Further, everyone will undergo thermal scanning before entering the college. There are around 432 colleges with more than 60,000 students, teachers and non-teaching staff. Colleges are expecting around 30% student attendance initially. As the students are gradually expected to start coming to colleges, a few teams will be deployed near the colleges to test them on subsequent days. Medical officers will monitor the developments. Bharat Biotech has announced commencement of Phase 3 trials of COVAXIN. The Phase 3 trials will involve 26,000 volunteers across India, conducted in partnership with ICMR. This is the largest clinical trial conducted for COVID-19 vaccine in India. Trial volunteers will receive 2 intramuscular injection, approximately 28 days apart. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan chaired the 147th WHO Executive Board meeting via video conferencing. Delivering his opening remarks, the minister commended the role of WHO in the last 10 months of the pandemic. He called for enhancing collaboration, cooperation among member states for efficient, responsible discharge of public health obligations.
This is the time that we must enhance our cooperation and collaboration. We must work in unison with each other as member states, with all UN organizations, as well as the global community of partners for efficient, effective and responsive discharge of public health obligations.
According to the Indian Council of Medical Research, a total of 12 crore 65 lakhs 42,907 samples have been tested for COVID-19 so far. Of these, 8 lakh 44,382 samples were tested yesterday. And the second phase of Exercise Malabar 2020 is being conducted in the Northern Arabian Sea from today till the 20th of November. Taking forward the synergy achieved in the recently concluded Phase 1 of Exercise Malabar 2020 conducted in the Bay of Bengal from November 3rd to the 6th, this phase will involve coordinated operations of increasing complexity between the navies of Australia, India, Japan and the United States. Phase 2 of Exercise Malabar 2020 will witness joint operations centered around the Vikramaditya Carrier Battle Group of the Indian Navy and Nimitz Carrier Strike Group of the US Navy. The two carriers, along with other ships, submarine and aircraft of the participating navies, would be engaged in high-intensity naval operations over 4 days. These exercises include cross-deck flying operations and advanced air defense exercises by MiG-29K fighters of Vikramaditya and F-18 fighters and E-2C Hawkeye from Nimitz. In addition, advanced surface and anti-submarine warfare exercises, seamanship evolutions and weapon firings will also be undertaken to further enhance interoperability and synergy between the four friendly navies. In addition to Vikramaditya and its fighter and helicopter air wings, indigenous destroyers Kolkata and Chennai, stealth frigate Talwar, fleet support ship Deepak and integral helicopters will also participate. Indigenously built submarine Khanderi and P-81 maritime reconnaissance aircraft of the Indian Navy will also showcase capabilities during the exercise. Parts of Jammu and Kashmir are witnessing a cold wave. Doda and Kishtwar districts received fresh spells of snowfall, triggering a cold wave and rainfall across the state. Though a 120-kilometer long Bharat Kishtwar National Highway is open for smooth traffic, change in weather conditions have led to mercury levels dipping further by 13 degrees. And the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, BJP yesterday released its third list of 33 candidates for the 6th, 7th and 8th phases of the district development elections. The list contains names of party bigwigs Sham Chaudhary, Professor Gharuram Bhagat, while the party has fielded former Minister Shakti Raj Parihar from one more seat in Doda district. Meanwhile, BJP received a shot in the arm and prominent political and social activists of the Gujar and Bakarwal communities along with their supporters joined the party in the presence of senior party leaders at its headquarters in Trikutanagar, Jammu yesterday. And back here in Delhi NCR, air quality has slightly improved in parts following rains on Sunday evening and strong winds. As per the Central Pollution Control Board's Sameer app data, air quality index in Delhi is at 160, which falls in moderate category. In NCR too, the condition has improved. AQI in Greater Noida is at 170, in Gurugram at 205. And in Noida, it stands at 178. And now news on updates on COVID-19 from across the world. The virus has so far infected more than 5 crore 53 lakh and over 3 crore 84 lakh people have recovered, while it has claimed 13 lakh 31,000 lives worldwide. The US and Brazil continue to remain the worst affected, with the number of cases passing 1 crore 15 lakh. And in the US, with more than 2,52,000 lives lost due to COVID in the United States itself. Brazil trains just behind it in terms of the death toll. The World Health Organization has said that the challenge of COVID-19 is not a choice between life and livelihoods, but that they are both parts of the same fight. It also said there was no time for complacency in confronting the virus despite positive news about possible vaccines. The statements were made hours after Moderna said its experimental vaccine is 94.5% effective in preventing COVID based on interim data from a late-stage trial, becoming the second U.S. drug maker to report results that far exceed expectations. This comes after last week's announcement from Pfizer, which said its vaccine is also more than 90% effective. Ghebreyesus has said G20 leaders would meet this weekend, giving them an opportunity to commit financially and politically to the COVAX global facility set up to provide COVID-19 vaccines to poorer countries. WHO Chief Scientist Soumya Swaminathan said that news on Moderna vaccine is encouraging, and she expects says she expects very limited COVID vaccine doses to be available in the first half of 2021. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said he was perfectly well after coming into contact with a COVID-19 positive person and will drive the government forward via Zoom while he self-isolates for 2 weeks in Downing Street. Johnson had earlier announced that he had been told by the NHS test and trace scheme to self-isolate for 2 weeks after it was confirmed that a lawmaker, Lee Anderson, who attended a 35-minute meeting with him, had tested positive. Boris Johnson had also caught COVID-19 in March this year. Russia has turned its Moscow-based ice rink into a temporary hospital to handle the influx of COVID-19 patients. In Moscow, the Krylatskoye Ice Palace, known for hosting international speed skating competitions, is now on the front line after being converted into a temporary hospital for COVID-19 patients. It opened last month. Though better resourced than other regions, authorities in Moscow are under severe pressure. The country has reported more than 19,48,000 cases of the virus with more than 33,400 deaths so far. And the presidents of Honduras and Guatemala have asked rich nations to help out as powerful Hurricane Iota has rolled towards their countries. Category 5 Hurricane Iota has made landfall in Nicaragua. Iota was due to collide with northeastern Nicaragua, which has barely recovered from Hurricane Eta. Iota was packing maximum sustained winds of 160 miles to 260 kilometers per hour. The World Food Programme has warned that some 80,000 people in Nicaragua are at risk from the hurricane. The unprecedented hurricane season this year comes as Central America is facing an economic crisis linked to the coronavirus pandemic, with experts warning the compounding hardship could worsen infections, spread hunger and fuel a new round of migration from the region. In Russia, a student caught the government's attention as he pled for better internet coverage from the top of a snow-covered birch tree. Russian student Alexei Dudoladov is also a blogger. In a plea, he told the regional governor that his home internet is not strong enough to connect to his online classes, and he has been forced to come up with a creative solution. As a result, authorities are preparing an individualized study plan for Dudoladov so he could study in his village itself. Top seed Novak Djokovic started his bid for a record equaling 6 ATP finals title with a classy win over Argentine debutant Diego Schwartzman. The 33-year-old Serb, who has not won the event since 2015, eased to a 6-3, 6-1 victory at the O2 Arena in London. In another match, Russian fourth seed Daniil Medvedev earned his first ATP finals match win, beating German fifth seed Alexander Zverev. Medvedev lost all his group matches in 2019 but began with a 6-3, 6-4 win this year. International Olympic Committee Chief Thomas Bach expressed confidence that the Tokyo Games will be held successfully next year, even allowing spectators to attend, as the world grapples with a sharp rise in COVID infections. The IOC president spent the day with the Tokyo organizers discussing how to stage the massive sporting event during an unprecedented pandemic and ensure safety for a gathering of more than 11,000 international athletes. The visit is Bak's first to the Japanese capital since he and former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe decided in March to postpone the 2020 Games to next year.
All this makes us even more confident that we can have there next year a reasonable number of spectators in the stadia and therefore enjoy the Olympic spirit. We know that we will even have more COVID countermeasures in our toolbox than we have now. We know that there will be a more sophisticated rapid testing regime available. There you see new developments by the month, if not by the week, all over the world. And we can also be more confident that they are most likely that there will be vaccines being available.
Uruguay forward Luis Suarez has tested positive for COVID-19 along with stand-in goalkeeper Rodrigo Munoz plus a staff member, according to the Uruguay national team statement, while other members of the squad had all tested negative ahead of Tuesday's World Cup qualifier at home in Brazil. The statement added that both players and the staff member were in good health. The team had followed protocol and taken the appropriate measures following the results. Suarez, who scored a penalty in Uruguay's 3-0 win over Colombia on Friday, is now ruled out of the match with Brazil. He will almost certainly also miss his club's La Liga match against his former club Barcelona on the 21st of November. Union Sports Ministry has sanctioned 10 lakh rupees towards the treatment of hockey Olympian Mohinder Pal Singh, who is suffering from a chronic kidney ailment and is currently on dialysis. The money, sanctioned under the Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay National Welfare Fund for Sports Persons, was given to his wife Shivjeet Singh on Monday. Recently, Union Sports Ministry met Shivjeet Singh and several other veteran hockey players to assure them of assistance from the ministry. Mohinder Pal Singh was the coach of the Indian hockey team and an outstanding hockey player, representing India at various international events including the 1988 Summer Olympics. He was also a member of the Indian hockey team that won the Asia Cup in 2007. And that's all we have for you in this edition of the news. News and updates continue on DD News and DD India. Namaskar.